OpenID Connect on the last session. So we'll be from there. So OpenID Connect was developed because of framework which was developed on the or why it was added because in 2.0, right? Is they it was no standard way to get the user information. So it cannot be used for application. So it was just for dedicated application. So to overcome that issue, the OIDC framework was the they all work on study protocol, one dedicated application, OpenID Connect, it can be used for communication. So a new endpoint was added to the OpenID Connect where you can get the user information. Here we have except we get one more token in OpenID. Right? We have two tokens. One is ID token, the other one is yeah, ID token. So it means on OAuth 2.0, if you use authorization codes for it, then just in the scope you have to pass like what you want on the OAuth you like email like, you want this is your open ID and then rest of the protocol. If you define open ID there, right? Then you get the ID token along with the other attributes and access token. Uh, uh, same over or this line source number is a person who owns this account, that is that. So check the for operations with redirect URI, right? Here response type code that this is authorization code. So we have to define one more parameter here. So ID profile. Or if you want more information, then you can add email ID also based on what as but in OIDC flow, this is the mandatory parameter authorization. So it does indication authorization, then the user consent happen. So this flow is on the front end, the browser, and it directs the direct URI with authorization. Right? This authorization code now client have to again go to authorizations folder and exchange this ID token, so this authorization code for access token and ID token. This is going to have to do the token and get that and so it gets the ID token and access. ID token then can be used for logging the user, right? With the with like you have to define all that on the ID. So you will have first name, last name, email ID, maybe address, all these things, and you can use this value to create the user account without the and then the access token can be used to get the more user information, like if you need the contact or if you want to read the email XYZ, whatever the access token allows, that it can be used. So how the flow will start, the client URI, or then client ID. You will go more on this. Redirect the URI to where the request is back. So OpenID file you can use response type. That means it's a transition. Once you get the authorization, right? Then the client has to make the token to get the ID token and access token. What the server ID to the request, then the client create the request and grant type. Right? It will get something like this. It's gonna expire and token type is always going to be the bearer. So it's subject to the request. Okay. So let's call the simple use cases for the for nowadays OpenID Connect mainly used for indicating the user, right? Simple login application which we can say it's like paid application or SaaS applications that are hosted on the some cloud platform. Uh, those are being or all the modern applications. They are going to work with OpenID because they are designed from scratch from sign of across sites. So when we were talking about single sign-on, right? We in the initial classes we talked about the domain, right? Domain have to be same for the single sign-on to work with that, right? Domain is not same, then you will face you cannot configure single sign-on. That was the old way to achieve this. But on with the OpenID Connect, that is like click on you can achieve single sign-on between any domain, right? Uh, any scope of domain if some website have, for example, .co.in or .net.com, on with the OpenID mobile app. The SAML login did not work with the mobile apps, right? It was very difficult to implement. This protocol is mainly used for mobile application and delegated authorization. delegated authorization. That means allowing the access your or some part of your access to read your contacts or maybe a public profile or maybe some post you made here, right? If you want to share that post on different applications that can be used for that different both for mainly used for the API. So we go for both and right. We are talking about the some API which we are going to write. Some APIs are talking to each other to exchange the data, right? So over granting access to API, getting access to the data in some other system. That means, let's say you have an user on to got the access. Now you want to uh, configure, let's say Google Calendar, or Google Calendar endpoint, and then exchange the token to retrieve that information. Whereas OpenID Connect is used for logging the user inside a system. So this protocol is more of our use which we are going to use because in in upcoming days, maybe like next 5 years, seven will be like old protocol, the new protocol will be the OpenID, making user account available in the system. That means you can use the same account to log into different or delegate authorization OpenID. Now you have to be like decide which kind of flow you want to use for your OpenID, right? Like there are many flow and you have to like mix and match them. But on a basic level for the web applications, right, with which have some backend servers, right, where they can store the token and all those things, then you can use authorization, right? For the native mobile application, so for the mobile application, you have to use uh, authorization code flow with Pixie. But it is a proof key exchange. So we will go more detail. It's like more secure authorization, and specifically used in the mobile application. Because in mobile application, right? If someone get holds of your application and clone that information, right, then it can get the all the authorization, access token, and the code and all those to and these kind of thing, right? For the mobile application, enhanced version of and JavaScript and single page application backend API. That means single page application they really don't have any backend, right? So you have to use implicit code in that case. But there are some new applications, right? Uh, Node.js or latest version of the Node.js where they use some of the backend, like some database in the backend. So you can use the authorization code for that. It depends. You have to talk to the developer of the application. So So microservice slash API, that means machine to machine communication is happening. In this case, there is no end user, right? It cannot provide consent to in that case we will use client credential. So it's specific, some specific client ID and some client credentials are created and they are embedded into the system. So two APIs can talk to each other without being like prompted for user consent and like some login based words. They will just use a basic application, may make a request with their client ID, client credential, get the access to it directly, and then exchange the access API. Mhm. So in OpenID, we have some more endpoint. We will go through the endpoint more detail. I'll show you what they are with PixieFlow. Before PixieFlow, let me quickly start the lab and
No worries.
meanwhile, let's start with the PixieFlow. So, ID authorizes for Pixel. So this flow is used to verify, right, where to whom the access token is issued, right, at authorization server endpoint. Yeah. So it is used to verify the access token is issued to the same app where the authorization first came from, right? So we are sending the access token to the same entity where the initial request came from, right? So let's say there might be some cases where there is some man in the middle kind of attack and the authorization, right? Authorization code is stolen, and that person then will make the request uh, access token and will get the access token and can use the data manipulation. So to prevent these cases, we have CFlow where you validate where the request came from, right? The initial request for the authorization code and at the token endpoint, right? Is the is is the person making the request for access token is same as the one who made the request for authorization code. So how it is an last the flow. So there are three main parameters in basic. First thing is the code verifier. So code verifier is but it is the random cryptographic string created in the login. That means whenever the user tries to log in, right, to the client, that means some mobile application or some other applications. That create a code verifier, a random cryptographic string, right? And then we have code challenge. So what challenge is the code verifier, the random string, is then hashed by sharp 256 hashing algorithm. And then that hash is encoded by base 64 encoding. This becomes your code challenge. Okay. So first thing, verify a random cryptographic string created during login. That 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 string is then hash sharp 256, and then it's like encoded by base 64. So code challenge method is the algorithm. It's going to be sharp. Let's look at the flow here. So just initiate the login at the client. So during the login process, client create code verify random, and it then hashes this string by sharp repeating to make the code challenge. So now we have code verifier, code challenge. Now the client will make the request to the identity provider, right? And it will keep the code challenge in the HTTP redirect request. It will add the code challenge to the initial request, right? So what the identity provider or the authorization server will do, it will take the code challenge and store into its memory or some persistent data store somewhere, right? So it will keep the information there. Okay, from this client, this is the client ID, and this is the code challenge I got from that client ID. So it will create a mapping and store that information at least. And then the application process happens and the code is sent to the application authorization. Okay. Now, now the now what happened? The client, right? The client is going to exchange the authorization code, right? For ID token and access token. So in that request, it will add the code verifier as well, right? So it will send the request for token, the request for token along with authorization code and the code verifier, which it created during the login process, the client, right? Then, so what the identity provider is doing, it already has the mapping for code challenge, right? Now got the information code verifier as well. So what it will do, it will take the code verifier and then it will try to hash the value using the same cryptographic. Sorry, it try to hash the code verifier by the same hashing algorithm. So at the end, he should have the same code challenge. One it got the during the initial request, and one that it uh, calculated right, and it got the code. Both both of these should be the same. The hash should be the same. If these two value matches, then the authorization server or the identity provider will know that the request is coming from the same client, right? Who initiated the flow in the beginning and who is now requesting for the access. These are both the same entity and the access. So let's say so three code verifier, some were created by client, code challenge, same code verifier is then hash by start basic code challenge method is like what the algorithm that it is start. So during the request, these entities are created and the code challenge is sent to the authorization server. Authorization service goes to backend with the mapping from the client ID, the authentication, and then client adds the token and it's go to the token endpoint and exchange its access. So in that request, it also add the code verifier. Once the authorization server gets the code verifier, it will use the same hashing algorithm, the SHA-256, to recreate the same hash which is during the initial request. Right? That is the code challenge. If both the code challenge match right at the identity provider, then it will allow the access to the access. So why Pixie flow is used? Pixie flow, right? In the Pixie flow, the access token is sent from the front channel, that is browser, and you can have like JavaScript or some bad code here running to the browser to steal the access token. The access token is really very sensitive information. And also to prevent the cross-site request. So let's say you issue the access token for some other client, right? Now the same token is used by like some client B, right?
Sorry, I'm having trouble. Please try in a different one.
Yeah. So the client B takes the authorization code or some bad entity, some attacker use the access token and try to make the request as a token. So when those scenario, we use authorization. Okay. How the um, so before I start this, right, there are some basic requirements enable OpenID and OAuth on the SiteMinder end. First, you need to enable the session support. So let me uh, enable the session support. So here you are. This as a session store, so you can use maybe OUT or any LF or APT and data, right? This is what I'm using as to push to application for this is um, configure this. You have to configure this file and the application is going to this. So then you have to define the I'm using things like Postgres, right? I'm using the Postgres to decide all the code dot database username, right? And the case file. This is the primary application. You define the this application system.dbc dot to enable the system. And then from the SiteMinder management instead, you have to do an activity test and then enable the system. So all the information will be stored there. Being so that's the minimum requirement for the OpenID. So let's first do authorization provider. So authorization provider, right? So it is your authorization server, right? So this you can configure multiple authorization server as well based on your need. So this is my sample authorization server. Let's take a look. We have inside the authorization. So the provider name is like what name I'm going to use. When I need provider for SiteMinder, users role you have to define the users role where the authentication authorization going to take place. So search filter is like if you want to specify not the complete user directory, there's a specific branch or some group like that you can define using the search. Okay. Let's look at the policy expression. So here the authorization service URL is going to be your SPS hostname, the SPS based URL. The same which we use in the identity in the SAML configuration tools. So authorization code, expiry time, the minimum number of time the authorization code should be used at the token endpoint, and you have to use secure authentication URL. Okay. So this is like something same way which we did in the SAML we use the SPS redirect GSP, then redirect.jsp that was used for the SAML. Here we have different URL in the same web service secure, then secure redirect. Okay. We have to protect this URL in the domain configuration. I will show that to you. Then we have signing encryption. Here you have to say like the certificate example, we have to use the SPS certificate, signing algorithm, and how you want to do this. Like, so you want to sign the information, sign the sign the right? This all. And now we have claim, right? So what are claims? Claims is like a user has some identity, right? That identity is made up of some different attributes. So these attributes are called claims in OpenID. Uh, so you have some name that you are going to map to the some attribute of each user, right? So name is mapped to the CN attribute to the LDAP in your user type. Same like email attribute is mapped to the mail. Right? Sub is mapped to the UID attribute. Even name is mapped to the name. So these are called claims, right? And Scope uh, is very important. Really, why? Because scope defines what kind of access you are granting. Right? Without defining the proper scope, right, it will mess up the flow of the OpenID Connect. So if I say name is email, and if I start passing like name, so you can pass like multiple claims in this. You can pass like email XYZ. So this thing you have to control as a OpenID Connect administrator, right? You have to control this. So for example, profile I have made the name and email ID. So if so in the in the flow, if the user asks for the profile, right, he will get the information in access token name and email, right? In token ID, I'm passing name, email ID, sub given name, all the things. This is just for the sample. So these attribute mapping and scope mapping are really important. So yeah, these have to be configured based on the need of some specific. So that being the case, let's close this. Let's change this and see. If you see here, I created one SPS OIDC domain. Let's take a look at this configuration. User Yam. So what I have done here is like protected this page. It's we are using as a authentication URL, secure authentication URL. Let's take an application. So here are the web agent tool which we are going to use. So get boost and connect, right? And we are going to protect with SPS side in as a SQL. Okay, and then I have unprotected this URL. I have web service CASSO OIDC, right? So this is the base URL for your OIDC that we have to unprotect. Now let's go to the configuration of the ACO agent ACO, the SPSS secure process. Let's take a look at this. So there is one parameter which is used for the OpenID, which is yeah, source configuration. This parameter is used for configuring the OpenID configuration. Let's see. It is- Okay. See, the format here is like this. It's key value resource for this. This is my base OIDC URL and allowed origin, right? Where the request is allowed, right? So from my slab.com, right? Here the request. What are the method? Message, the same message parameter which I used in the while creating the authorization server, right? Allowed header authorization. Same I have to do for the secure redirect also, secure redirect page. And then I have to add three more same parameter for the client ID. Right? See if you see this is some client ID I created lab quality, okay, and for the token endpoint and the dot well known. Okay, so let's take a look at the what are these configurations. go back to the client. Configuration OpenID client. What's the client? This is some name I will give to this, right? The client ID, some random string, fluffy string, right? So, which is created during the initial process when you create the client, right? And then client secret. It's some random string that is also created during. So these two are very sensitive. Client ID is okay, but client secret, right? Yeah, it's like very sensitive. Now, which page you are going to use for the user. So I configure the default OIDC page, but uh, you can do the customization of the page as per your need. You can disable the consent as well using this flow for client page. Right? So client indication. We have like what client authentication is like. What kind of authentication? Uh, what type of application this client is, right? We have to type public and confidential. So what is the difference between public and confidential? It's like so on the token endpoint URL, right? If the client type is like public, right? Then the client don't have to do some additional some additional authentication at, at the, but if it is potential, right, then it will have to do authentication by different methods. So if we use this, right, potential, then you will see have we have authentication type host, basic, client secret data, private key, data. These are the method by which the client has to do authentication on the token endpoint to get the access. So in our lab, we have the six legs like public, and if you enable the pixie here, the pixie flow will be used for this application, right? So in the detail, basic client secret AWT and we go yeah, authorization provider. Who is the authorization? So I'm using the default authorization provider who activated as a OIDC. The scope that this specific client can because so I'm only using OpenID and email. I'm not allowing file to be accessed by this specific client. The grant type. Grant type is like what kind of flow this client is going to use. Authorization code, refresh token. Refresh token is like some access token is only valid for some specific amount of time, right? So there are some use cases where application have to be logged in, like for example, mobile application, right? The session has to be maintained for the application once user logged in. So if he is not using the application is the is in the idle timeout state, right? And you cannot keep the user logged in for like this, that's 2 months, 3 months. Like that's not possible. In that case, we use refresh. So refresh token is like to get the access token again without being going to the complete flow. Like get the authorization code and do this and then exchange at the point in the backend. Avoid that a refresh token is issued, right? So refresh token will have validity like 1 month, let's say 2 months or 3 months. So whenever session is going to get expired, right? So this uh, this client is going to make a request to the user or token token endpoint, and it will send this previous token, right? The previous access token along with its refresh token to the token endpoint, right? And it will ask for the new access. So the authorization server is going to check the old token, right, from its store, or whether this is the correct old token is right, the value is correct or not. Then it's going to check the refresh, right, if it is valid or not. They both match, then it will issue a fresh access to. So user can be logged into the application for a very long amount of time without going to the same flow again. Implicit flow is something like we talked about, like no back channel uh, communication happen. It just do the authentication, provide the consent, and then access token is sent to the browser, the ID and access. Okay. JWT bearer, JWT bearer is like uh, the request at the authorization at token endpoint. The client has sent some more specific data, right, to do some additional authentication. That is called as JWT bearer. So we will take, like see these two things, public and confidential, and JWT bearer more in the detail. And let's like code, ID token, and token. It's like if you are sending just a code, then the user the client can exchange this code at the authorization token endpoint for ID token and access token. If you are using ID token and token, that means user will get the ID token along with the authorization code, and to get the access token, it has to go to the authorization token. So ID token will come in the initial request, and just the ID token, user will not get the authorization code, just the ID token. So this is like how you want to send the information, standard the access to the security format, like enable the persistence session. If you want to the send the essential also that. And then we come to the redirect URI. Right? This is where you have to send all the information back to user, the client. So this is my lab of my lab URL as for lab for examples. Redirect. If you are going to use any function to classify it, that's take clear. And now these are the end. Let's take the issuer URL. There, who is going to issue this all information? So this is the issuer to issue this by this authorization endpoint where the authentication and authorization will happen. So this is the endpoint which with the client is going to token endpoint where it can exchange the token, get the token, ID token access. user info endpoint. So the access token can be used to attain or to gain the more information of the user at this end. Use user info and introspection endpoint. So introspection, like uh, if access token is sorry, not access token, refresh token is issued, right? So user will call to the introspection issue. The client is going to call the introspection URL and get that token validated at this point. Once that is done, introspection endpoint will call the token endpoint and will issue a new access. Right? This is for checking the validity if the token is correct. Revocation endpoint. This is primarily by the admins where you can revoke the access of some, right? Let's say a device is compromised, right? And then you get to know. Then at this endpoint, you can the client ID will come there, and all the token issued to the client ID will be revoked. They will be invalid. GWS, GWKS, Java keys. Java keys. So GWK token keys. Right? If you are using these flows, GWK clearer, right? If these flows are being used, right, then we have to define these URL here. So give it to the clients, right? Whoever wants to. And metadata, provider metadata. So instead of giving all this information individually, right, you will just give this URL to the client to access of information. So this URL, I'll show this to you now in next class. Here will happen all the detail of this provider, right? The lab, OpenID, all the configuration which are allowed, right? All the endpoint. It will be shown into this information. You just send this configuration URL to the client, and they can configure. This is known as a well-known URL, OpenID well-known URL, and they don't have to know the information of any other, like what is the token endpoint, what is the user endpoint. They don't have to know all these things. Just this well-known URL they can configure at their end, and the client ID and client secret. These two information you just configure at their end, configure at their end. That's it. The flow is configured, and they can check the flow, and then they will use it. This what we have now. We cover the PXE flow, public and confidential. Right? This is one of the main important topics which we have. This is the only point which is left to the OpenID. There are some information. We will cover this in our right. So tomorrow is going to be last session. Last session for this. We will cover this information. Example, how the OIDC works, right? In the lab, but all the application you have to do. That part we will see tomorrow, and we will also see the difference in the confidential application and the